Welcome back to the Real Football Show. I'm your host, Ryan Lam, and in this series, I'm going to be bringing in a lot of my friends to talk about, big Premier League clubs before the season starts, which is, a week from now, and it's still a little bit puzzling to me how that worked out. But then today I have David Eckert with me, actually. He's a Wolverhampton Wanderers fan. He plays Football Manager kind of with me as well. So thank you very much, Dave, for coming in, and, how have you been? Soccer
I've
wise, I guess.
I've been doing all right. Thanks for having me. This is certainly my first soccer punditry appearance, I guess. But yeah, I've been doing okay. What about you? What's going on? And are you still in State College?
Yeah, I'm just still perpetually around and doing stuff and now having more time to work some of the media stuff. So
Cool.
let's begin. Wolverhampton Wanderers. Of course, they missed out closely on European competition last season. And one thing we've kind of both talked about, even in our leisure conversation, is that they have a really, really thin squad with only playing, I want to say 14 players at least in the Premier League or in all competitions that play like the over half of the available minutes. So, like, what are your thoughts of, like, of course, the kind of disappointing ending, but then also the team all kind of operating with that rationale of, we trust our players, we're just going to use them and see how it goes?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the ending kind of sucked. It was just, they just needed one of a few things to go right for them to at least get a Europa League place, and none of them went right. Especially even with Chelsea going ahead of Arsenal in the FA Cup there at the end, and Arsenal turning that around after Chelsea got a man sent off. So they didn't end up with Europe, so that's frustrating. But yeah, as far as like the small squad, like all of the Wolves reporters will say that that's like something that Nuno likes. Actually, it's not something that they do because they don't have the money to go get players or because they just can't for some other reason. It's kind of a preference thing for him, which I think is kind of weird. But I think it's a concern, especially going into next season, because with the Europa League ending, I don't have the dates in front of me, but they only had like 5 or 6 weeks of rest while everyone else has almost a full 2 months. And then on top of that, with the small squad, our guy's going to be injury prone. And on top of the small squad, most of them are playing in these Nations League games that are going on right now as we're recording this. So, yeah, they're not getting very much rest, and they're playing a lot. So that's not great.
Mhm.
But, yeah, I don't know. I think it would be more of a concern overall if it was like we just can't afford to buy players, but I guess you can kind of live with it if it's being done for a reason.
Yeah. So, quickly to wrap up the review part, just because what's past in the past. What's a player that you're particularly impressed with in the past season and looks to lean on him in 2020 2021, and what's a player that, of course, it's kind of hard to pick because they've been playing all all of the matches. What's a player that's kind of been a little bit shaky or toward the negative side to you impression wise?
Um, on like the good end, I think a player that's maybe not everybody knows about is Daniel Pedence. They got him in January from Olympiacos, and he's been really good, like really good. He's really creative, and that's kind of something that they lack. A lot of times when they score, it's just based on pure speed from Adama Traore, or it's a really good strike from Raul Jimenez. But as far as like pure creativity outside of João Moutinho, you're not really getting that from anybody. But Daniel Pedence, Nuno finally started to give him a chance after the lockdown break, and he was really good. So I'm excited to see if he can kind of build on that a little bit. As far as someone who's been concerning, I would say Diogo Jota. He's been really bad, like really bad.
I think he knocked one in for Portugal like yesterday.
He did, yeah. Which is he got a really good assist from I think it was Rafael Guerrero, and it was like he just kind of had to score. But yeah, but he's missed a lot of really good chances, and he just, he's been falling out of the lineup. He didn't play against Sevilla in the Europa League quarterfinal until like the 80th minute. They played two strikers, but they went with Adama Traore as a striker, which they usually don't do. So yeah, you can tell he's just kind of slipping, not only like on the field, but also as far as like what Nuno thinks of him and his confidence of him. He's just not playing as much. And for someone who, is well known and is highly touted, he's a Portuguese international. Like, you'd like to be seeing a little bit more from him.
Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. Well, speaking of, pedants and all that, the Wolves are not particularly active in the transfer market. Maybe, as you alluded to Nuno's favoritism of having a smaller squad and knowing what he's going to get out of the players. But then there's one big signing, one kind of depth signing, and then a situation where one of the stalwarts of the team actually left in Matt Doherty. So let's start with the positive stuff. Marçal is going to be probably purchased from Lyon for around 2.4 million euros as a backup, most likely. And then, of course, the big signing, Fabio Silva from Portugal. Like, of course, another Portuguese. So what are your early thoughts about those players, especially Fabio Silva? We're both in the FM community. We know he's a wonder kid, and like, what are you thinking of, especially like you said with Jota kind of going up and down in the striker position, and now having that option to nurture, but also just you got to give him game time as a club record signing.
Yeah, Fabio Silva, obviously, you and I both know that he's like a top 3 striker in the world by like 2025 on every FM save. So if it turns out like that, that'll be great. But yeah, they paid around 40 million, I think was the reported fee, which is like a ridiculous fee for an 18-year-old. But at the same time, you understand why. He's got like this ridiculous goal scoring record in youth soccer in Portugal. So yeah, you're certainly not angry about it. I'm excited to see a player of that caliber, come in. The last real wonder kid, if you want to use that terminology, that they had was Ruben Neves, and obviously that has worked out. They got him from Porto as well. But yeah, it's exciting. You do kind of question like the use of the financial resources, right? Spending 40 million on a striker, although they did need a backup striker. So, but spending 40 million on a striker when you just don't have a right back right now, which I guess we can get to. Marçal as well. They really don't have a pure backup center back, and he had been playing left center back mostly for Lyon down the stretch. So obviously, I that's a really small price tag for someone with Champions League experience, even if he's not great.
And he's pretty old.
Yeah,
he's like 31, which is a little bit older, apart from maybe Patricio or Joao Moutinho.
Yeah, so the age is a concern, but at the same time, he's going to serve a purpose. So it's hard to be mad about that. And the other thing is they have a pretty promising youngster at center back in Max Kilman, who had kind of been forced to stay at the club because they didn't have any backups, but now he can probably go get a loan, which is good. So yeah, hard to complain about that one again because the price tag is so small. But yeah, so after not signing anyone for a long time, it's been nice to get 2 in 2 days here.
Yep. So I guess I could kind of work the other point, the more negative point, into kind of the expectations as well, because as we talked about, the Wolves, again, small squad. So I feel like every single departure, especially one for a player who played like upwards of 30 games the past season, would be a huge detriment to the team, because like it's magnified. Those are the players they've been playing with. I'm talking about Matt Doherty here, who not really forced the move, but took the move to Spurs, which is, you could arguably say that it's a step up, but then with the kind of murky mid-tableness, you never really know, especially with Mourinho as well. He looks like a good Mourinho player though. But then, yeah, and with Johnny Otto out early in the season, you might have to probably lean on Ruben Vinagre for quite some while. So what are your early expectations looking at this squad right now, especially tailoring to losing a key piece like Doherty?
Yeah, I mean, they need a right back, right? They have to get a right back in at some point. I think right now their right back is probably Adama Traore, who, he's played there a little bit, but that's definitely not where you want him if you're Nuno. So, they had been linked to Ainsley Maitland-Niles of Arsenal, and then he got called up for the England squad, and Arsenal was like, I think we'll keep him. So I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, as far as like expectations go, I don't know. I think that to keep their group together, meaning Traore, Jimenez, maybe Neves maybe even a guy like Willy Bally, who I think is a really good center back who goes under the radar a lot. I think they're going to need at least a Europa League place next season. So I certainly hope that they can, kind of find themselves around like 6th, 5th-ish. I think they'll probably finish somewhere between 6th and 10th in there somewhere. Right back is obviously a problem. And the other thing that's a problem too is that, Nuno is kind of notorious for not allowing transfers to step in right away. Like he will not play, players he's acquired until they've learned his shape. They do play a kind of, not unique system with their 5 at the back, but it's not something that everybody plays and everybody knows how to do. So, it is a concern about even if they get the right back in, okay, how long is it going to take it until Nuno is comfortable with him playing? And that to me kind of makes the whole Doherty thing really, really confusing. I think the general logic and explanation for, the transfer is kind of that he's his agent is George Mendes. Nuno's agent is George Mendes. And,
everyone's with George Mendes around Wolverhampton's.
Yep. And Mourinho's agent is George Mendes. So I think everyone kind of just thought like, George Mendes just kind of pushed this through, which, he's gotten Wolves a lot of players for a lot cheaper than they should be over the course of this kind of 3-year project they put together. So it's hard to complain too much, but, you sell one of the best attacking right backs in the Premier League for 15 million to one of your rivals for your European places. That's just never a good thing, no matter what the cause is. So yeah, I don't know. They need to get somebody in, but it's going to be, the season starts in a week, as you said. So It's going to be a kind of a race to get them ready. I would imagine Adama Traore is going to be playing right back against Sheffield United, which is going to be interesting.
So finally, it's all like just looking at all of this is kind of, we're playing the guessing game, educated guesses maybe, but still the guessing game. For you, of course, you said they're going to finish around the 6th to 10th place, hopefully for Europa League spot. Who's the one player on this team that in 2020-2021 season the Wolves have to keep, but then also need big performances from? Just one player.
I think it's Raul Jimenez, really. There's a ton of transfer rumors for him all the time. And, Adama Traore as well, just because of the speed and just his sheer athleticism. But, they don't tend to score a lot unless Jimenez is involved. Like, they play counterattacking soccer. They're not, they're not pressing you very much. They're not, they need Jimenez to take the chances and not only take the chances, but create the chances. So, you see him with, some really good hold-up play a lot of the times. creating a chance for, last year it was Doherty, or even one of the midfielders like Leander Dendoncker can sometimes get involved offensively. But yeah, he is getting older, which is a concern, but I really think they need to try to figure out a way to keep him and to have him excel, because it's hard to figure out where the goals come from. And obviously Fabio Silva is an option, but do you want a 19-year-old kid to be your first option? Probably not. I guess you can he'll probably get playing time in the cups this year, so maybe we can see a little bit better what he's capable of. And if it turns out like, okay, yeah, he's going to be a good option, he's a viable replacement, then maybe you sell him at the end of the season, sell Raul, I mean. But if that doesn't happen, and I'm not really holding my breath waiting for Fabio Silva to become a world beater, then I really think they've got to find a way to keep Raul.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you very much, Dave, for hopping on today and talking, Wolves and your team. We'll actually be back really quick with other parts of this series of previews, so stay tuned, and glad to have you again, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.